I hereby call the Special School Committee to order. The meeting is at Brockton City Hall in the G.A.R. room, Grand Army of the Republic room, second floor, 45 School Street, Brockton, Mass. 02301. It being Tuesday, April 30th, 2024 at 7 o'clock. At this time, I would ask us to please stand and salute the American flag. Members, it's behind us. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to, first of all, before I call the order, I want to thank BCA, Brockton Community Access. I want to thank the IT for both the city and school side. And I also want to thank Brian Matter, Mr. Brian Matter over there, Custodial Services. We are not at Brockton High today. Of course, Brockton High School Drama is using both the Rom Little Theater and the Nelson Auditorium. And the Unknown School, which has been a great venue for us, does not allow Zoom capacity. So at this time, I will call the order to establish a quorum. Ms. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Vega?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah.
Vice Chair Rodriguez?
Here.
Ms. Azak?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Gomes, you're on.
Here.
Yes, thank you. And the chair is here. We have established a quorum. We will now go on to agenda item 4, which is hearing of visitors. We have 2 individuals that have signed in tonight. And the first one is Mr. Kalides Gonzalez, please. If you could come to the podium, please, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Test 1, 2. Thank you. My name is Euclid Gonsalves. I just came here to speak. I just wanted to give some resources. I spoke to Mr. Caskill, Kevin. I told him about different business outreach events that we have within Brockton. I personally work at the BRA, and we have a business outreach event that happened. This was from the state treasurer's office. There's an outreach person currently right now in Brockton that facilitates business for that particular office from the state treasurer. So we can work out some type of meetings with the school or something like that. If you want to do any presentations for students, get involved with the entrepreneurship club. We also have some funding for incubators, co-working spaces. I spoke with the recent chair, which is Richard, and he expressed that he would like to get involved and bring youth into that, whether it's at the high school or a different location. There's 2 things on the agenda that I would like to help with. So with the collective bargaining and non-union, I just wanted to let everyone know that the OPEB should be taken into consideration. It was mentioned in other city meetings. This is a liability, a long-term liability, a large liability. This is a pension. Me as a city worker, I prefer to give to a federal pension. And when I retire, receive a federal pension. It's a burden on the municipality sometimes when people retire early or when there's a large quantity of people when they retire later. So I just wanted to give that information out there. And it was optional at a certain time, but now the city does have it. Maybe you can do certain people have that OPEB, that city pension, and then maybe certain people can contribute to a state. They also have consultants that deal particularly with that, different contributions and long-term liabilities. And then I just wanted to give a testimonial. So I'm from Brockton. I lived in Brockton my whole life. I went to Downey School. I heard about the virtual education, that it may be getting phased out. I know many people prefer virtual education. So I just wanted to let you know what happened to me when I was in elementary school. It happened to a lot of students. So every Halloween, I would actually get sent to the principal's office for not celebrating Halloween in the Brockton Public Schools. At one point, it was maybe around 5 students that would go with me, and they'd take a desk and put it outside of the hallway, and we would all sit there. And then after some time, the next year, it was only about 2. And then year after year, it was only me going to the principal's office. To the point that at Downey School, I believe it might have been Mr. Hart, he sat down and I was there and he was like, you shouldn't be here. I don't know why you're here. And then he asked his personnel, what did he do? Well, where's the paperwork? What did he do? No, he doesn't celebrate Halloween. He's like, oh. And then he's like, no, you're fine. And then everyone just kind of really thought about like what's going on. And then from there, I think it was 6th grade, it's Halloween time came, and everyone was like, are we celebrating Halloween? The classroom students. And the teacher was like, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. I hope you all do a great job.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Next individual, Lori Mason, please. Ms. Mason, please.
Good evening, everyone. I want to say, through the school committee meetings and the kids that have gotten, the students that have come up here and spoke, I want to thank them. I'm very proud of them. They've done awesome, and we are all listening to them. The last school committee meeting that I went to, and I heard Fred Bond speak, pushed me because I have a lot of knowledge and experience in certain things. And I went looking and did some research on BVLA, which is the Brockton Virtual Learning Academy. And actually, it shouldn't be closed off because all children have a right to an education. And if there's a disability involved, they need to be accommodated. And looking through everything that I've looked at and listening to Fred, they need to have that virtual learning. They can't be in the public school systems. And they are, I believe, protected by, what is it, Section 504, the Massachusetts Public Education Law, American Disabilities Act, the individual, which is part, I guess, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act comes out of the American Disabilities Act. The Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And if the children need that, because it is considered accommodation, and I left envelopes with the children's rights and, you know, about disability and discrimination. And if there's a problem and you close this and the parents don't have anywhere to go, you can you can go to the Department of Elementary Secondary Education, you can file complaints. I actually have forms right here. Attorney General's Office and the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, MedCAD, and the U.S. Department of Education of Civil Rights. You can all file complaints there if you don't accommodate these children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. We have no other individuals that have signed up for hearing of visitors, so we will end that agenda item. We will go on to agenda item 5, which is FY 2025 budget planning. And members of the committee, again, I do want to thank the Vice Chair and Dr. Cobbs, who have been working with Trish Boyer, the acting school CFO. Troy Clarkson is here, the city CFO. And I know Mr. Plant, TJ Plant, is also on Zoom as well tonight. So we will begin the process. I met again with the council president, Moses Rodriguez. It does look like he is going to be calling it again the week of July 17th, which is Monday, Tuesday. Now, again, the 19th is Juneteenth. It's a federal holiday. We would not be meeting. So Moses is working right now, and he'll work with the vice chair and myself. Just another update. We will be meeting Dr. Cobbs, the vice chair, Trish, Troy, myself, the solicitor, and the president will be doing another call with the state tomorrow at 3:30. So we'll be the lieutenant governor, a governor's representative, and then Secretary of A&F and his team as well. So the floor is yours, Dr. Cobbs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, school committee members. So we'll start with TJ, again, to give an update on where we are. Again, I just want to preface this meeting and this information that we're sharing. It's where it's called, this is budget planning. So these are not finalized numbers. They're still work in progress, but these numbers are closer to where we will probably end up with the fiscal year 2025 budget regarding the net school spending, non-net school spending, and transportation costs. So with that, I'll turn it over to TJ, and we can go from there.
Good evening, Mr. Plant.
Can everybody see the spreadsheet? I know this isn't a newer one.
Yes.
It's newer as of today, but it's the same spreadsheet we've been kind of looking at for the last few months. And then, so what you're going to see a little bit different today is a change in net school spending and non-net school spending numbers that have kind of started to come to fruition. I'll go through it again just as a way of background. So The foundation budget is calculated for the 16,775 students at 314.6 million. The required contribution from the city is at 58.4 million. They backfilled that balance of Chapter 70 funding at 256.2 million. On the side note, this all assumes the governor's budget. We know the House just finished their budget debate and the Senate starts in May. For a total net school spending of $314,000, $14.6 million. That starts your appropriation to say, hey, everyone on the call acknowledges that the state requirement for educating students in Brockton is $314.6 million. It reduces the charter assessment. It reduces school choice assessment, a small special ed assessment. Schedule 19, you'll see, has been reduced by approximately $2 million. This is doing all the research that was provided in the last meeting that we had on the budget. So this has gone down by $2 million, roughly. We're still working through some of the maintenance, building maintenance and facilities things that we just want to get through, figure out. Non-teacher tire retention contributions, this number came from the consultants that do the pension, that's at 5%, and health insurance, you'll notice changed by $1 million. This is where the conversation is about the drivers as they relate to net school spending as they relate to the driving the buses. So then you add back in the 6.6 million charter tuition reimbursement aid, and then the transportation number has been updated as of today to 18.7 million. The adult education number is something that needs a little bit of work, but it shouldn't stray too far from this, 287,000. For a total of a net school spending number of 227.3 million and roughly $20 million of a non-net spending that includes 18.7 million in transportation and nearly 300,000 in adult education for the total appropriation of 247,336.
That might be community schools or whatever.
So that's kind of where the numbers that, and Dr. Cobb, I don't want to get ahead of you, but I know these are the numbers you've been working with your cabinet on. And trying to make sure that you understand exactly where the figures came from. Roughly it's about 9 million more than last year, given the charter tuition and the changes that were made in Schedule 19, and then obviously the driver health insurance contribution, which still needs to be fully vetted, but this is a good placeholder for the conversation as it is right now. I don't know, Dr. Cobb, is there anything specific you want me to cover because the number's newer? Or if that kind of sums up where you're at and where the city's currently at, that's subject to change based upon House and Senate and Conference Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Plant. Dr. Cobbs, anything else you wanted TJ to talk about? Or
Yeah, we're going to go, if we're going to have questions on this first, and then we'll go to the transportation budget next. So,
members of the committee, I know this was just given to us, but any questions at this time for Mr. Plant? Ms. Oliver, please.
The number of enrollment, when was that updated last?
So the enrollment comes from October 1st enrollment counts that are the ones that DESI uses to calculate Chapter 70.
So what is our current enrollment right now?
oh, geez, I want to say 15,560 was the last number that I
Thank you.
Mr. Gomes, since you're via Zoom, I didn't know if you had any questions at this time.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Any other questions at this time? I know we, as a committee, need to vet this out a little further before questions, but TJ, do you mind just sitting tight for a
No,
while?
I'm here for questions.
Thank you.
I'll let Dr. Cobbs run kind of where he
Thank you.
add in some color commentary or ideas of asked.
So again, is it an in-progress budget update? So no more questions on the net non-expended?
Not a question so much as just, not even a clarification. So this is new information for
Right.
for a lot of us. And, might take a moment or two to digest compared to some of the other information that we received. So it's fair to say that we don't really need to discuss or go too far into this
Right.
until our next general meeting? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And as I've said in previous meetings, the vice chair and I are totally in support of doing as many special meetings as we need to do. Time is of the essence, right? We have to have a budget pass, city school budget, by the end of June by law. So again, the fact that the president is telling us June 17th, we have a lot of work to do. So this is just the initial numbers. We'll begin vetting them out, and Tony and I will work together with all of you to accommodate. And again, we do have the ability to do it remote. If any of you can't come here because of family or work commitments, and you still want to join us, we'll always have the Zoom link. Thank you, Dr. Cobbs.
Okay, so you want to go to the transportation?
I didn't know if Mr. Clarkson or Trish, if you had, you're both here, thank you. If you had any questions or, any statements you wanted to make at this time, it's still premature. Okay, thank you both. Sure.
Okay, TJ, let's go ahead and go to the transportation budget breakdown.
I'm not sure if you heard it, Doctor. Did he hear you?
I think he's going to share his screen with what you have in front of you, this page that you have in front of you. There we go.
So, Dr. Cobb, this is the hot off the presses that came a little while ago from you as an update. I don't know if there's a better way that you want to walk through this or
Sure.
walk the group through.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So you can see with the, if you start from the top, we compared 2023-24 to 24-25 and plugged in the numbers. At the very top is the driver's payroll for this current year, and then for projected for next year, it goes up a bit. In the yellow below it, you can see that there's $489,063 for 10 new drivers, which I'll get to in a minute. So that's the total cost for drivers for the fiscal year 25. The next line is $561,675 for all of the office staff for the transportation department. And their salaries are broken down, and you can see there's a reduction from 2023 to 24 to 25 of about $350,000 for two salaries that are no longer here for next fiscal year. The next thing in the highlighted yellow, you see there's a $50,000 roughly addition for administrative assistant, and you can see in the yellow all the way to the left the description of what that entails. So that and this may change because it may be, we're working to figure out if that's going to be an administrative assistant or a clerical para. So if it's a clerical para, it's likely to be half of that salary. So then the next line is the office expenses for the office supplies and dumpster. Goes up a little bit, actually down a little bit from last year due to the office supplies going down another $500 or so. Safety department, these are mandatory trainings for the most part that, we have to build in, but you can see that the cost goes up because there's more drivers, and we have to train drivers, mandatory trainings. We also have to, at times, we have to take drivers off the road and do retraining. So that's where that budget goes up a little bit, and again, with the additional drivers. Bus operating costs, that's the fuel cost for last year is about $983,361, and next year it's about $1 million, a little over $1 million. That's the cost of fueling the buses. The next line below that is the driver cost for fueling the buses. Right now we have them go to the fuel depot and fill the buses, and it costs us about almost $300,000 a year. So that will change. We're looking into a vendor that actually can do mobile fuel drops to the buses at the yard. So I expect that number to change or go down significantly, or go away, actually.
Go away.
Go away. So insurance for the buses and vans. So the next thing is the 10 additional buses, fuel costs. And the next thing below that is the annual lease for 16 new vehicles. So what we're doing is 16 new vehicles, it'll be a 10 vehicle addition to the fleet and 6 that we're exchanging out. We have 6 Honda Odyssey vans that we're going to trade in 4, and 2 of them will go to the driver's ed department. So you can see the line below that is $60,000 deduction. But of the $432,000, we normally carry $350,000 in our new vehicle acquisition budget line. So it's only different about $82,000 for next year when you net out what we already currently budget. GPS routing system doesn't change much. That's the annual licenses for that, as well as the Zonar and With My Bus and Versatrans. We put an addition in of $45,000 for the new Versatrans cloud-based system that will make finding the buses and tracking the buses much more efficient. So you can see that line changes from 1.5 million to about 2.2 for next school year. Fixed operating costs for the garage and parking. You can see that the heat for the garage goes up a bit. The parts of vans and buses, tires, so they all go up just slightly. Towing we didn't change. Rent for the bus yard goes up slightly. So you can see the total fixed operating costs go up next year, from $818,000 and change to $953,000. The last line is it's important that you see highlighted in the this current school year, 3.7 for out-of-district private vendor costs. And if you look, we deducted, I reduced all of these expenses by about 55% from the 2024 cost. So you can see in the red, there's a $2 million deduction, so we're budgeting 1.7. These numbers may go down further because what we plan to do with all these is provide a fixed rate to the vendors, and the vendors that want to work with us and do the routes will work with the fixed rates for the cost. So these costs I expect to go down even further. McKinney-Vento private vendor costs, it's $4 million last year. We reduced by 2.2, so we're at 1.87 for next year. The in-district private vendor costs, this is where we'll save money by purchasing the new vehicles, the 7D vans, 6 of them this year, 5 of them this year. And right now its cost is $3.6 million, a reduction of $2 million, so we're at 1.654. And then we have the new transportation costs for the New Beginnings re-engagement program. We added back those in. This will be new for next year. So you can see we went from private vendor costs of about 11.7 million, reduced by 6.3 to 5.376 million. So from last year's estimated, this year, which I see last year, but this year it's 23.4 million. We expect that number to go down to about 18.715 million.
Any questions? Ms. Azak, please.
Thank you. Couple of questions. So we're going to lease 16 vehicles
Correct.
for $432,000 a year.
Right.
What would it cost us to purchase them?
The large buses, 6 of them will be 138,000. You unfortunately you weren't here last week when we went through that, the proposal for that.
Because broken down, we're at $27,000 per vehicle a year. How many years is the lease going to be for?
5.
I don't agree with leasing. It's just when we own them, we own them.
Yeah, again, unfortunately, you missed the presentation last week to explain why it's to our advantage to lease the vehicles, because as part of the transportation department creation and rollout, there's three things that should have happened. One was purchasing the yellow buses, which we purchased most of them, but not all of them. That's why we have to add new vehicles. And we really can't afford to just outright buy them at $138,000 for the large buses and $108,000 for the half buses, and then about almost $100,000 for the 7D vans. So we should have, what you never came before the school committee was the total cost, like you see now, of the private vendors that we were paying, which was almost equal to what we were paying for the yellow buses. So, and the other part of the transportation rollout should have been the planned obsolescence for the buses, which we never did. You have to turn over the fleet. If we own them, you know, they're gonna get older. You know, again, in the presentation last week, it's 8 years, it's 5 to 8 years for the larger buses and about 12 for the smaller half buses. So with the leasing program, we always renew the buses with updated technologies, and that price includes all of our camera systems and all of our Zonar systems and everything else. So it's a planned obsolescence to turn over the fleet. So that's why it's better to lease them than it is to outright purchase, and the maintenance costs will increase every year for the buses.
Okay, so I know originally when this was a few years ago, when we talked about starting the transportation company, it was pretty much like maybe every 4 to 5 years.
Right.
Just turn them over and keep,
Right, so
sell them, get them.
our oldest one did 2022, so it'll be another 3 to 4 years before we actually have to, and after that, 10 vehicles a year after that point, so.
Just so they can stay under warranty and
Right.
things like that. And
Right.
then,
We have a bus right now in the yard under warranty, we're replacing the engine, and it's covered under the warranty, so, absolutely.
okay, and then just had 2 other questions. One was where's my bus? I've been asking about this for a few years. Are we actually going to try to get this to work?
Yes.
The where's my bus?
Yes.
I know a lot of parents,
I don't think we ever actually purchased the software. No, we attempted it or tried the beta version, but I don't think we ever purchased it.
I thought we did years ago.
So it's never been rolled out because, again, it's an app on the phone for the parent that they have to opt in for.
Okay. And then I know a few meetings ago, we had asked for a list of the vendor list to see, as far as like the vendor list, certain vendors were getting more routes than other vendors, and they were all different
We sent that
pricing.
out. You didn't get it? We sent it out to everybody?
I'm not sure. I can double check. Just so we can see, well, the rates. It was the rates, the different rates.
Yeah, they really didn't have rates so much as what we paid them, for invoices. They said the rates was whatever they billed us for, essentially.
Okay, because I thought we were going to
There
try
were
to.
no fixed rates, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to fixed rates.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Azak. Any other follow-ups?
Just one quick, so Dr. Cobbs, can you just, because I can be a little slow sometimes, like, can you explain how leasing these buses has an effect on the contracted buses? Or our range, like, how are our contracted costs going down so significantly?
In the private vendor contract
Yes.
cost? So
Yeah.
I just walked through that with these numbers that are highlighted. Over here, you can see the numbers that are highlighted at the bottom. So our private vendor costs right now are $11 million, almost $12 million a year. So we will reduce those costs, one, by taking the in-district, with our 7D van, in-district costs. We won't send that out to private vendors at all.
Okay.
Unless, of course, we get to a situation where we don't have enough buses to cover it for the time. So right now, we take that off the table as far as private vendors, so that significantly reduces the cost. And then the next thing is, again, we take all the private vendors, and we're going to establish a rate which we'll have ready by the end of June to go out for the summer program, and then for the September. And it may be based on, a certain rate per hour. And, and it doesn't matter whether you're driving to Boston or Weymouth or Taunton or the Cape. If you're on the road 4 hours today and 4 hours back, your bill is for 8 hours. For some reason, in traffic going down the Cape, you're on the road for 10 hours, your bill is for 10 hours. And that's the way it works. So we'll have control of it.
So this plan, eliminates our dependency on vendor contracts for in-district transportation?
Right.
Okay.
Any additional follow-ups? No. Mr. Gomes, any questions at this time, Claudio?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Vice Chair, please, followed by Ms. Azak, follow-up.
The only thing I don't see here is the security personnel that monitors the lot. Are we still employing somebody? I know it was like part-time. Is that still on the books?
Yeah,
or-
I think it's in there, but I don't really think that we need that. But,
Okay.
let's see, safety vest.
I know we purchased those,
Yeah, the lights and.
the lights with the cameras on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And we, we'll use our own school police to monitor the lot, and Brockton police. They have directed detail that they drive through or they sit on the lot. at different hours.
You good, Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes, yes, thank you, sir.
Ms. Azak, please follow up.
Thank you. Dr. Cobbs, I know at one of the more recent meetings, I had asked if we can look into some of the insurance policies that we have. I mean, 192,000. I just want to make sure we have the right, oh, thank you, the right coverage and to see who holds these insurance policies. We've had a lot of surprises recently, so I just wanted to make sure that we took a look at that.
Yeah.
And also,
We could bid that out, actually, and.
we could bid that out. I mean, that's almost $200,000 right there. And to also see, are our rates going up? How many claims are we putting in? Things like that. I'd like to see, reports that we have with our transportation. As far as our, you have a little fender bender and your rates go up on a, your own vehicle. So I can't imagine what it is when it comes to commercial vehicles. So if we could take a look at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I still support the idea, and we took a tentative vote on it, to put an RFP out. The RFP, there's no guarantee when you do an RFP, but it would give us some metrics. Number one, we'd see if there's any interest, right? And they would have to report what they would charge. So the hourly rate, I think, is phenomenal, but we have to do a cost analysis. Boston is in comparison, but what does Fitchburg and Haverhill and Lawrence and Lynn and New Bedford and some of those other gateway communities charge? But I think if we put it out, it would also let people kick the tires to see, and it would give us a basis. That's what I think we should do, right? Because there's no commitment. Once we put it out there, nobody responds. If we get 20 responses, great, but they have to disclose what it is, and that would help us do our due diligence. So that's what I think we should, as a committee. Again, we did take a vote on it, but I think we should really work with the chief procurement officer just to get it on the streets to see.
Actually, I do have one last question.
Any members that haven't asked any questions yet? Go back to you, Ms. Azak, please.
So now that, thank you for the packet that you just handed me. So,
That was from Ms. Oliver.
oh, perfect. So my question is, for example, some of the schools that are not part of Brockton Public Schools that we provide the transportation, do we provide the smaller vehicles for them, or is it just the large buses? Do we have to provide the door-to-door?
If there's special needs, no.
And how many, can we find out how many of the smaller buses that we actually have going outside of our district? As far as like to Spelman, Charter, Trinity?
We provide for private vehicles for these most of the yellow buses.
Just the larger buses? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, any questions at this time?
No, I'm all set.
Mr. Sullivan, any questions, sir? Any additional questions relative to the transportation matter that was presented to us? Again, we'll vet through this. We'll have a standing budget planning on all the agendas going forward. I want to thank again the Vice Chair. I see Attorney Spotterfoot showed up. They've been helping on getting the budget out timely with Mrs. Campbell. So continue, please, Dr. Cobbs.
Okay, next up on the agenda is, again, this is something that we have been wrestling with for several weeks or months with the community schools budget. And it's one of those things that I don't think has really come before this committee to approve a budget for the school, community schools, basically for the year-round budget. I know that Dr. DeBarros has come before you to present the summer programs, but, there's this committee, and I've been saying for a while, this committee needs to understand that, part of the significant part of the community schools budget needs to be subsidized by the Brockton Public Schools, just like we do all the other schools. It's a cost center. There are some things that are, tuition-based that we get reimbursed for and grant-based. So I gave you, actually, Dr. DeBarros gave you this today, this community schools presentation, because she's looking to get an approval for the summer school budget. So I gave you this handout here, which kind of goes through, and we'll break it down to a spreadsheet where you can actually see what programs, there's 19 different programs according to Dr. DeBarros, what those programs are, what the funding source is, what the cost of those programs are, and the difference between the funding source, if any, and the programs. And I'll give it to you on one spreadsheet the next time you meet. So you can see what our liability or what we need to subsidize for these community schools. At this point, you have two sheets. There's a breakdown here of the summer program, but according to Dr. DeBarros, there's 4 camps that you want to run for the summer. And those camps will cost us $225,000, $225,657.02, and transportation of $105,000. So looking to approve expenditures for summer camps of $331,497.02. So that's, you need to put that on your radar, and whether you authorize it tonight, because Dr. DeBarros, rightfully so, has been anxious to get the summer catalog posted and posted positions for the summer. So obviously, these programs run free for the students, Brockton Public School students for the summer, and it's obviously to our benefit as a community to provide services. But I just want to make sure you're clear that we are subsidizing the summer budget for this program for the community schools.
Vice Chair?
Do we have a funding source to cover this?
It'll be out of our, some will be, Trish, some will be non-net spending and some will be net spending.
Right, in the brochure that was provided, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, so some of this is funded by some of the programs that are listed in the pamphlets there. So some of it is funded by other sources, DESI grants and things, partnerships with other facilities, and some of it is the 300,000 or so, 330,000 is supposed to be coming from our local budget,
So that's net, out of the net spending budget?
out of the net school spending, yes.
So what do we have that can cover this? Is it 0? Is there 100? Like, if there's...
Well, we've been supporting programs all along, year after year, so it's already been in the budget, in the non-net school spending. If you look back at any previous budget book, you'll see community schools between $200,000 and $300,000. So it's already been provided for. This is nothing new.
So there's funding sitting there that can pay for this?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So I just want to make you aware what that funding will be, and that you as a policy, you want to authorize spending to cover the summer programs.
Trish, I just had a follow-up on that. Is there a way, because in my humble opinion, we should put this on next Tuesday's night to take a vote, because I would like to have a breakdown of what's grant funded, what's net, what's non-net, because the 10 million that was frozen, I have to suspect a portion of that was part of the frozen dollars, right? So again, we're getting close to the end of fiscal year.
Right.
We want to provide services to the kids. We're going to have the Brockton After Dark program again from the task money that's out of my office. But I just think it would be helpful as a committee to see what funding source, like the Vice Chair said, and where it's broken down to get to that. Because the transportation cost of 105, that's 100% going to be non-net.
Right.
So we just need to figure out what's what.
Yes.
Could we get that for next, prior to next Tuesday, so we can see it and vet it out?
I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
we'll get out.
Maybe we could get a Friday with a packet, we can, does everybody agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. DeBarros will be here to present on Tuesday next week.
Tuesday, and we'll be back to Ron Miller Theater, I believe, next Tuesday, right?
Yes. No.
Are known.
Or at the Arnone?
Or we
That's
can
what Melissa said.
across the hall.
Yeah, we might be down the hall. We might be here because of TJ, so we'll figure it out, but we'll report back.
Just to clarify, though, are these programs, have they begun enrollment already?
No.
Okay, so, yeah, so it's in our best interest to do it as soon as possible, because, for anybody who's got kids, if we want, now would be the time.
And we need to
Okay.
get the book out.
Okay, yeah.
Ms. Azak, followed by Mr. Sullivan, please.
Thank you. So I noticed everything's broken down with numbers as far as enrollment. Can we get an actual breakdown from Dr. DeBarros as far as positions for staffing? I just see it broken down as far as staffing, but not,
That's just the second page I gave.
oh, sorry, I'm only looking at this one.
Two-pager, yeah.
So she has them broken down?
Yeah. There you go. It's in front of you.
Oh, okay.
What sheet is that?
Let's see. Okay, perfect, yeah. I was just looking at the packet. Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, please.
Yeah, Tricia, last meeting, we were talking about the grants. It was like a dozen grants that had to be closed out.
Yes.
Has that been done now, or?
Yes, we work on a few each day, but there's still many more.
Oh, there's still a lot more?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, you'll get a report on that next week as well, because she just said, we got a preliminary report tonight, and there's a lot to discuss, to clean up on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
Okay, just to, this is for Dr. Cobbs. So, so Dr. Cobbs, you said that we already have a line item that covers this. We already costed out. Yeah. Okay, and that's every year we've done that.
Yeah, but you've never seen it because it's been in a revolving fund kind of, and
Right.
it's kind of been.
I know, but I was on the community schools
Right,
board,
right.
so they talk
Okay.
about stuff
So
like
you know.
this too, so I know about it. But the thing is that I know families are charged to go to some
of the
programs too.
programs, yeah.
Because I thought I heard you say, oh, this is free, but it really,
Well, the summer programs are, but there's other ones that there's tuition funded. That's in this packet here that you got.
Right.
The Get Ready program.
yes, I know there's certain ones,
Yeah,
yeah.
some of
Okay, so that's what I just was wondering, if they were all going free.
But, that's a policy
Because I know
decision, and
that-
again, that this body needs to decide on if you want to, require any subsidies from the parents for, for tuition for the summer programs or not. Right now, it's 100% funded. These 4 schools anyways, these camps for the summer.
Right, okay, thank
So
you.
that's something that, again, as a policy decision, you guys need to decide if it's
Yep.
absolutely free for the kids for the summer, or there's some, sort of tuition or voucher system or whatever.
Yeah, and that would all depend on whatever we have for funding.
But because, again, realize that the community schools budget is a revolving fund, but what happened inevitably at the end of each year that we found out is there was a deficit, and then that 199 fund would kind of swoop in and pay off the difference, and that's how it's been operating. So we can't keep doing that. We have to
No.
provide a budget, have a budget for
Yeah.
them to work with, and that's that. Whether we fund, how much we fund, we decide, but that needs to happen going forward.
Right, because sometimes programs have to be cut from there, and that's because we don't have the money to, and people will say, oh, well, they cut this. Well, if we can't afford it, then we can't have it,
Right.
so, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Any other questions at this time for either Dr. Cobb?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Gomes, please.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard everything, but basically this has always been budgeted for. I just wanted to make sure, let's say the 300,000 that we always budget for, but considering the financial situation that we're dealing with and, the grant, some of the money that we had to give back, are we certain that we can provide the funds without affecting other areas that we need to put fund for?
Go ahead. Yes, we've been providing this amount of money to cover the programs for years. I don't think this is any different. And the benefits to all of the students is tremendous compared to somewhat of a minor cost.
Any follow-ups, Mr. Gomes?
Yeah, well, yes, I do understand, and I would, this is something that we can definitely benefit from. But to go back to the question, just to make sure that it will not affect any other areas that will, for instance, need immediate funds for, or let's say we don't have enough funds at the moment. Is that a concern that we should look into?
I don't believe that to be a concern.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair, please.
Just to piggyback, if these funds are available, then how are we in a deficit every year with community schools? So if we're operating in a deficit now,
Right,
how are we even able to approve this to move forward?
right.
That means the money's not there.
So this funding in front of you is going to come from the local budget in the non-net school spending. What's in a deficit is the revolving account, which is something completely separate from this budget. And that's because there are programs that they run that are not self-sufficient.
Trish, when I sign my kid up for community schools basketball, right, it's $120 or whatever, right? Where does that money go?
Into the revolving account.
Revolving account? Driver's ed, revolving account? I think it would also be helpful for us to get a breakdown of how that works.
Absolutely.
Because what I'm concerned about, just to piggyback on what Mr. Gomes and the Vice Chair said, if 10 million was frozen, right, this is in the budget, great, but a portion of it was already frozen, so we could get to 25.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But these summer programs are gonna start before 25. They're gonna start in June, and carry over to fiscal 25 in July. So that there should be, the total amount you're asking for is for the whole summer programs.
Yes.
Right? But there should be a proportional share broken up into the next fiscal year 25, starting July 1. So I don't know why we would pay the entire amount in 24 for something that carries over to 25.
It won't, it says 25, it's fiscal year 25.
But it starts in June, right?
July 1st,
There's no programs in June?
oh, I'm sorry.
There's programs in June.
Yeah,
I'm not positive of
Okay,
the
we
start
should find
dates,
out about
but
that.
yeah, we can find out for sure.
Because
I'm looking at
if that's the
dates.
case, there
Yeah.
should be a
yeah,
proportional.
I think they
Yes.
start in July, because the school year ends on the
July.
30th.
July, so it is 100%
Yeah, it's-
fiscal 25.
That's-
Okay.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
start in July. Thank you, John.
July.
The community school still hires all the lifeguards for the Manning Pool, right? They still do that, Dr. Cobb?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. Any other questions at this time? Again, all of this is gonna be on the next agenda as well, so we can just keep, delving into it. Any questions for Mr. Plant? Is there anything else we're going over?
Just,
Anything,
it's in progress update.
okay, anything else for Ms. Boyer or Mr. Clarkson?
Unless you want to take a vote to authorize for the summer programs.
I don't, I specifically wanna see what's net, what's non-net, what's grant funded myself. but,
So
you know,
that'll be Tuesday, we'll ask for the.
Yeah, we'll vote on it Tuesday, get it Friday, that way we can do a breakdown.
Okay.
Ms. Azak, follow up?
Thank you. This is actually for Ms. Boyer and Mr. Clarkson. So the packets that we get, the school pay code summary that we get, is there any way we can put in a separate column that shows us when the last update of that specific item was? Because when I was comparing the two packets the past couple of weeks, one line item just jumped from like 64% to like 99%. So I just want to see, like, are we up to date with certain invoices?
Yeah.
Is there, I know that might be a little tedious to just see where we are, just
Yeah.
with specific line items as far as how updated are the invoices that we have. When we're looking at the numbers, are they more recent? Has it, are we a few months behind? Just so we can see where we're getting, right to almost 100%, just to see where we are as far as, maybe reach out to some of those vendors and say, can you please get us some invoices so we can get our numbers up to date? So we
Sure.
can get a better understanding as to what is still owed.
Yeah. So that report that you get comes from Mr. Clarkson's office. So if you want to change the format, that would have to be a question to Mr. Clarkson or possibly Evan. I believe Evan's the one that runs it.
Just like an extra column that
Yeah.
shows us more recent, when is the more recent, update as far as invoices?
Yeah. And then that part of the question would be to invoices or purchase orders that we get on a 12 months a year basis. So it's not every line item, it's those utilities, for instance, tuitions, transportations. Those are the ones that we get 10 or 12 months worth of invoices for. So you'd want to know how far behind we were, how far back it was.
Definitely, because I looked at one, I was comparing them, and I just noticed there was a $120,000 difference within 2 weeks.
Right.
And it's just, okay, so where are we? So we know where we need to be and where we need to keep our eye on. We're really close to maxing that line item out. So to just see where we are with those invoices.
Do you recall which line item that was?
It was our legal fees.
Yeah.
Oh,
Our legal
okay.
fees.
Okay, yeah.
So our legal fees are, we're obviously, it's understandable given what's been going on, but comparing them the past couple of weeks, we're still, we still have a ways to go.
Right.
And to Ms. Asak's point, it jumped from 64% to 99% in 2 weeks. And again, I know legal fees aren't going to come in at in a regular fashion. It'll be big chunks, but that was a significant jump, and we are in April or
Right.
approaching May. Yeah.
Yes, we'll definitely look at that.
Okay.
So my question is, are we up to date with our fees, or are we still a couple of months behind? I know a lot of law firms, a lot of companies don't bill out monthly, they bill out quarterly, that, you know, things like that. So that's my only concern, is like if we can somehow just see, this was last updated, we're up to date to this month. Is there any way we can just throw in an extra column?
So lots of questions wrapped up in that discussion. I'll answer as many of them as I can. Specifically to the legal line, I'm just speaking from past experience using contracted counsel in other places where I've worked. A lot of times law firms will send multiple invoices at the same time, so I suspect that jump was probably due, and obviously there's a representative of Murphy Hesse here that can answer that specifically, but I suspect it's due to multiple invoices being processed at the same time. We want the reports to be useful to you, so we're happy to adjust them in any way. I'm not crystal clear, Member Azak, as to what the ask is. If you could just shoot me a note and describe what it is you're looking for, if we can do it. In terms of the timeliness of the information, the report, as I've stated before, is a reflection of what's in Munis. And so Munis, whatever the data is, whatever has been entered into Munis as of the day that my office generates the report, is what's actually in the accounting system. And we have now on a regular schedule to provide you those updates when you're having meetings. Is the question you're asking, is it possible to include the previous report's numbers so you can do that comparison? I'm not quite sure what you're...
No, actually, just another column that says legal fees paid up until March 2024.
I see, okay, then
we know or paid up till February, so we know we're in April going into May tomorrow, so we still have March, April. So we know where we stand as far as what's still outstanding.
Okay. So that's not information that's generally available in Munis, because then that requires a little bit more legwork to then understand from our vendors how much there yet is to build. We can certainly do that. That'll take a little bit of work, I think, so it would require, because Murphy Hesse obviously is one of dozens of vendors, so we'd have to try to anticipate, right, what the amount is that we may still be liable for, and try to determine that. So it's something we can certainly work with you on, but that's going to take a little bit of work.
Yeah, I don't expect it for every single line item in here. Just there's certain ones that are just going to jump up, that we need to keep an eye on, as far as, you know, when we keep looking at our packets on a weekly basis. So just, that's all. Again, some of them, it's just you have to reach out. I don't want to run into what we ran into a few weeks ago, where we got hit with invoices that were over a year old, where if we haven't received an invoice from someone, we can reach out and say, listen, we haven't seen an invoice. It's been about 5 months. We're working. It's budget season. You got to get us the invoices so we know where we stand when it comes to paying our bills. So I don't expect it for every item, but some of them are going to jump out more than others.
Could you identify those? If there are certain ones that you're looking for, that would be helpful, so that we understand what specific information you're looking for.
Sure. Well, I'll take a look and send you an email.
I can probably throw one out there. Like, so. Oh, I'm sorry.
Survey.
I just started reading about Robin's rules. My apologies. So one example might be at the high school. There's a line in there that jumped. It was more than 25%, and it was the IRS/RSS line, right? Like so, you know, like to have some clarification on what it is, but also like what, you know, where we stood previously with that would be really helpful. And one question. So you mentioned earlier that these reports are a reflection of what's entered into Munis. Is there any reason to believe that if there's a delay in entry into Munis, that, you know, it just might be a product of attention to detail, that you know, we might be seeing things entered into Munis well after we've received the invoice?
I certainly don't. I'm not aware that
Okay.
that's an issue.
Okay, okay, no, when you ask, yeah,
I think, and again, speaking from general experience, that lag time is generally due to the timing in which vendors.
send us that in, okay, yeah, just wanted to confirm, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair, please.
Thank you. Quick question. First, we have an accounts committee where we can vet this out. Mr. Sullivan is the chair. We can work and try to get one scheduled down the line, and we can go through this, and a lot of the stuff will be answered. Also, when we enter this into Munis, I'll point out there's one line item, paraprofessionals. In Munis, on the report of 412, it was entered at 12.9 million. But then when I look at the report that's dated 426, that same line item is showing 13.1 million. How does that number fluctuate, or like what's happening that it changes with those numbers? Because there's about half a dozen that those numbers are changing from week to week. So I'm just trying to, like, what changes that? Is there monies being moved to cover because we're anticipating a deficit or a cost that it changes what's actually entered into Munis? I'm just trying to understand how those numbers change when it's actually.
So let me take a stab at answering that, and certainly a follow-up from Trish. One of the things, as you know, that we've implemented in the last several months is a requirement that there be funding for positions to be filled. And so there's a form that Dr. Cobbs and I both sign that certifies that there are funds available. In some cases, the budget as it's currently constructed does not have sufficient funds for those hires. So there's another form that was created that actually documents moving money within the budget to support those requests. So I'm not saying for sure, but I suspect that fluctuation that you're seeing is the reflection of those monies being moved around within the budget to support positions.
And just to speak to that, specifically with the paraprofessionals, you'll probably see an increase because, yes, we had to move money, and the paraprofessionals that we hired are one-to-one paras required for IEP plans, new IEP plans are requirement. So that's why it'll change. You'll see the budgeted amount changed.
Wait, that was an increase, but then we look at the security guard, it was budgeted 650, but then there's a decrease for 620.
I think we took money from that when we that part of that $10 million.
Okay, all right, that's where I was trying to see if that was part of that kind of fluctuated what was entered into Munis and what's being.
Right. And I'll just remind you that while we're still trying to correct grants and things like that, we have people coming out of the budget, being put on the grants, some people being taken from an old grant, putting back in the budget. So there's a lot of movement going on still, because we're still working with the grants. And
Okay, that's what I was looking for, just to get a clarification of how those numbers are actually being changed. The other piece is, when, let's say, for example, we'll just talk about security guards. When you have, it has, that budget code. In Munis, do you have the employee's name and what their salary is? Does it break that down for you? Or is it something that's just the number, payroll takes care of what the employees get? Or is there a drop bar that says, okay, these are all the employees that are entered in to get into this, getting paid from that category?
Right. No, it doesn't drill down that far. So if someone wanted to look at a specific account to see a person's name and their rate or whatever, you'd have to drill down deeper into a payroll part of Munis, as opposed to this is the accounts payable part of Munis.
Okay, so basically, I would have to, payroll would say, okay, here's a list of all your security. Okay, this is what they get paid, but add to that, okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
and I'll be working with you because I want a list of a few departments.
Sure. And I just want to mention also that at this time of the year, I run the purchase order report, the open purchase order report on a regular basis. And so what we do is we look at purchase orders that are older, that may have been put into the system in July, August, September, and if they're still open, we call the vendor and say, why haven't you invoiced us yet? We need to get this off the books. Is this item coming in. If not, we'll liquidate the purchase order. If it's back ordered, but we expect it to come in before June 30th, we'll keep the purchase order open. So we review that open purchase order list on a regular basis so that come June 30th, we don't have many open POs that really should have been cleaned up, liquidated out, and the money put back in the budget for other use. So that's a common practice in the accounting department.
I know this is where the one thing that's poking out at me is when you see some of these categories, it says other insurance, other charges, you know, like this other, like what is other?
Right.
What does other signify?
Right, exactly.
Like who determines, like who puts other into that category?
I expect that those descriptions have been in there for years and just have been left as is. One of the goals that I have in the FY25 budget is to drill down into some of those accounts and label them as descriptive as possible to what they are used for.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that it will be clearer in the future when you see reports like that, that you'll know exactly what it is for.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Trish, I just had a follow-up. When is it that you decide that you have to encumber something into the next fiscal year? Like, is there a specific drop dead date that you have to make that determination?
Yes, by law, it's July 15th.
Okay,
Is the latest date that we can encumber something.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's given us 15 days after the fiscal year.
Right.
But prior to that time, are we gonna have at least a good sense of how many invoices will be coming in to be encumbered by that time? Because it could be a variance of how much is.
Right. So that's list would be as good as the people putting the purchase orders into the system.
Okay.
So because we have a system where the purchase orders are not only done in the finance office, they're done out at the schools, the community schools, and so it's up to those staff to know, hey, I need to order something, put the purchase order in right away so that it's reflected in the proper year. And the proper way to order anything is to put a purchase order in first, then order it. Unfortunately, in a lot of times people will order things. I'll put an order into WB Mason, I'll call whomever, and I'll forget to put the purchase order in. That's when a lot of times the invoices come in that you hadn't anticipated. So it's up to the person to, whomever orders anything before they order it, it's really not supposed to be valid until they have a purchase order in their hand. And then you would know, anytime a purchase order is in the system, that's when it's booked in the system.
Is that, Dr. Klopp, is that a directive or policy?
Yes, that's what we've implemented now. You have to get the actual purchase order first, and it goes through an approval process before.
Okay.
There should be, for any purchase order, there should be a quote first before we request a purchase order.
Okay.
Then it gets matched up with the purchase order, and then when the invoice comes, then they all get processed to be paid.
Mr. Gomes is here. Please, Claudio, feel free to join us. The seats are comfortable.
Okay.
Ms. Oliver, please.
Ms. Boyle, I have two questions for you. One of them, you said somebody's already working on the invoice to go out there. We'll make sure we get it before the fiscal year is over.
Yes, I know that the administrative assistants have been reaching out to the vendors, telling them, let's get their, get your invoices in ASAP.
Okay, because we don't want the same thing happening like last year.
Go out to the vendors and ask for any open invoices, any open purchase orders to get the invoices in before the end of the fiscal year.
Perfect. Second question, how do we get updates of money moving from one account to another to cover so we don't go into a deficit, like a negative, like weekly or monthly, so make sure we're not taking so much out of one account? Like who's in charge of that? Who's responsible for, approving those movements?
Well, again, the responsible person is myself and Troy. We created another document that if we wouldn't move it from one line item to another if there wasn't sufficient funds in that other line item that we anticipate won't be used by the end of the fiscal year. So it should not create a deficit, it's just moving the money.
Just to get an update so we know exactly where the money's going. So when we get this, we'll know exactly why the money the numbers look different. So we just get an update, like an email, something like, we had to move certain things this way because we have to pay certain bills.
I imagine that would be Evan to try to track that down. I'm not sure how that could work.
Do we need Mr. Plant to stay on?
I don't think so.
Do we, members of the
TJ.
committee, any questions for Mr. Plant at this time? No. TJ, you can drop off. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
No worries, thanks everyone, we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Wake up.
So as I mentioned a minute ago, whenever that money is moved, there is now a document, a form that is signed by both Dr. Cobbs and myself, so we certainly can provide updates to the school committee when those funds are moved on a regular basis, because it's documented. Obviously, it's documented in Munis, because that's how the money moves, but there's also a piece of paper that documents that, so that there's backup to that, and there's not just moving of money.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for either Troy or Tricia at this time? Seeing none, thank you both. Thank you very much. Before we go on to Agenda 6, I just want to read into the record.
Not on yet.
Okay, let me just say this, though. This meeting is held and is accessible to the public via Comcast Channel 8, also the 1071 HD version online, the following linkage, which is www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. That will just go into the record. Dr. Cobbs.
So the last item you have, this again, a spreadsheet that's several pages. This is the current vacancy list that we're going to be working off to hires for this next fiscal year. As you can see, there's a lot. There's 221 positions on these, all together on these spreadsheets. And my cabinet, we're sitting over there tonight. I asked them to be here tonight to slug through this with us, to answer any questions about certain positions that you might have. We'll go through this obviously more in depth and as we go along to the budget and next Tuesday we'll discuss it more in depth. But this gives you an idea. These positions where it says 222 open positions, these are not new positions that we're creating. Some of them are, because again, they're one-to-one paras, they're special education, they're one-to-one nurses, they're elementary education teachers that, because our class sizes are overflowing in the elementary level. But these, when it says fill, these are positions where by and large we have somebody in that room right now, but it's like a paraprofessional or a long-term substitute. It's not a highly qualified master's level teacher. So when we say fill, we're going to advertise these positions to get highly qualified master's level teachers. So if you have any questions about those, it's a lot of positions, and some we've gone through that we put on hold or do not fill. There will probably be more, but we'll prioritize, because now that we went through this yesterday to look at the ones we want to fill, the ones we're going to hold or do not fill. We'll put together, hopefully for next Tuesday, we'll cost these out with the information. But I just did some quick math, and I just took all of the 22 positions and multiplied it by an average teacher salary, master's level, year 5 at $65,000, and it comes out to about $14 million. But again, that's part of our budget. So we will work on getting those numbers down. Again, so what we're saying is a master's level teacher at, year 5 is like $65,000. Right now, we may have a paraprofessional in that position right now that's making $37,000. So it's a difference of the, difference in between the two. So $23,000. So it's not going to be that whole 14 million. It's going to be, it's going to vary, but we'll get a number on that. But I just use that as a high number, just to say if we fill all those positions brand new at $65,000 a year, it'd be $14 million.
So
Vice Chair.
most of a lot of this is all in classroom positions besides a few custodial positions.
Right.
Now, where are we with posting these positions? Because
We have not yet. That's why I wanted to run it by everybody here first.
Okay, because I know
we have to get them out soon.
that's where it is. It's just like, if it was up to me, we'll put them up tonight at midnight. But
That's why I wanted to present this to you guys, because that's the plan, is to put them out tomorrow, once you know what we're doing.
Where's this money coming from?
We have almost $300 million budget, so that it's part of our budget to pay these teachers.
Yeah, but if you take your 227 non-net, and then your net, your 227, and then 20 or 18 on the non-net,
But it's already included in the net. Most of these positions are already included.
They're already
in the net
included?
spending, yeah. So these are positions that we.
Most of these
had
positions
on
were
the
already.
books already, that we've reduced some of the money for. Again, we took some of that $10 million, so.
That was frozen.
Exactly, and also the $15 million in grant funding. What we'll also break out for you guys is which one the grant funded and which one the net spending funded.
Mr. Vice Chair?
So, no, I mean, because of our meetings that we have, where I'm looking at is, obviously 25, we're looking long-term 26, 27, because that's what the city is being grilled on. The focus is to make sure that the classrooms are not touched, but, when I look at.
We're not reducing any classrooms.
I know we're not reducing, we're putting on, but like, is it fair to say that some of these positions can be held off so we can see what the projection is for FY 26?
Yeah, that's one we put in there already that we know we're gonna hold off. And for example, you see the, senior custodian, that's the one we have to fill, but that's going to take an empty position that's already in the custodian ranks, which will not be filled.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm, want to be cautious. I know we have positions that are open, but,
Yeah.
how do we look for 26 and 27?
It's just the
long
critical
term?
positions that we have to fill,
Okay.
the 6 officers that were down, we have to put those back in place at some point.
No, I agree with you. The only thing, that's why I asked, how soon can we
Tomorrow?
get these posted? Because I know we went through, and I know I voiced this a few months ago about, I know with the mayor and, the position control where, we do now have somebody in our business office and we should be going to her that knowing that the funds are there and these positions should be posted now because we have open positions and other districts are laying off, and I think this is we're at the prime time to build our ranks. And
Absolutely, with highly qualified teachers.
thank you.
And we're getting applications already, even though they're not posted on
Hey, we'll take them.
So Dr. Moran will be happy, just like Dr. DeBarros will be happy to hear we share the budget, and we're gonna post positions tomorrow.
Well, we need to know what a grant funded, what a net funded.
We will, that'll be.
We need to know that, because
You'll
we're
have
gonna
it
be talking to
Tuesday.
A&F tomorrow and the lieutenant governor, and we're gonna say, hey, last week we were on a call with you, we didn't talk about this, it's
Right.
$14 million, so we need to know that.
Right, but again, it's not really the number, but that's just, if I had to hire every single one of them tomorrow with a brand-new salary, meaning there's nobody in the classroom already being paid, it would be $14 million.
Okay. Ms. Oliver, followed by Mr. Sullivan, please.
As I look at this list, I'm just disheartened. A lot of this are like SPED educators that we need to, and this is why we're having students, especially in the SPED department leaving the districts. We need to get them back into that district, and we need to figure out how. Even talking to the state, we're doing the service to us, us SPED kids. And when I look down here, it's over 50 position or more that SPED is losing. And this is concerning as a mom of a kid on, SPED. We need to figure this out. And maybe when you guys are talking to, the state tomorrow to figure out how, we have to educate our kids, especially our SPED students. They are missing out. We need to come to an agreement to post these positions as soon as possible before they go to other schools or the districts, and now we lost on some great educators that our kids going to continue to get hurt on it. So we're doing a big disservice because this list is.
Understand, Anna, you have to make a very good point, but understand, just because we post a position tomorrow doesn't mean we're gonna hire all these teachers.
Oh, I know.
In September,
But we still got to do it in a decent time because,
We have to get it out there just so.
Because we're competing with so many other cities that also are fighting for educators, and they're not, a lot of them, because in honesty, they're burnt out. They're leaving the profession, and we need to figure out how we can make it affordable for them if they want to move to Brockton, and basically make it appeasing for them to come back to teach in our schools.
Good point, but that's why we need to advertise sooner than later. This will be the first time in I don't know how many years that we advertise before June or July, the teaching position.
Thank you.
Which is way too late in the game.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Mr. Sullivan, please.
Okay, Dr. Cobbs, could you speak to the amount of resignations? Because I thought I counted 36 resignations.
Resignations?
And retirements. I haven't told it.
I can't speak to each single one of the resignations, no, actually, but, there are several, but these are elementary schools, they're at every level, so, No, I can't give you any specific, I would have to go case by case to find out.
No, I didn't, I
what
just
we
wanted
want,
to just
but,
a general.
I think, relatively
think?
speaking, out of 222 positions, I don't even think there's, 20 or 30 resignations, but,
Yeah,
that happens.
I counted
People come, people go, they go to other districts,
Yep.
they move closer to where they live.
Just so the public understands that people are resigning and people are
It happens. People come and go,
That's
they
part
resign,
of the
they go on
reason why-
sabbatical, they decide
Yep.
when they finish a sabbatical, they resign to do something
Right.
else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Need, Mr. Gomes, please.
I just wanted to clarify, so we're looking to fill all these positions with the exceptions of the ones that do not need.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Again, these sheets are just for this committee. Nobody else has seen it other than the cabinet that we've gone through a couple of times, and we'll go through again, but before but those are the positions that we need to fill in the classroom. And again, with the budget, we're fortunate to be able to look at actually filling positions and not try to balance the budget by laying off teachers again.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Trish, could you do the same thing for us prior to Friday with the packet? Could you give us a breakdown on these positions, what's grant funded, what's gonna be, net?
We're working on it.
Okay, because that's similar to the community schools.
And again, that $15 million that we use from the grants that we had would fund some of these positions, the IDA.
Oh, no, I
grants,
get it, I just wanna know how many. That's what the LG is gonna ask us.
I asked Trish last week, and all of our grants, between the federal grants, the state grants, and private foundation grants, we probably have about $46 million a year in grants,
Great.
on top of our net and non-net spending.
Good.
So that brings us to about $290 million for available funds to use.
Any additional questions relative to this? Again, everything we talked about tonight, you'll hear it again next Tuesday. Everything will be back on the agenda for that as well.
In more detail.
And, yeah,
This is just an
absolutely.
in-progress update on where we are with the budget and what's going on.
Okay, we will go on to the next agenda item, and I'm going to read it into the record. It's agenda item 6. We have two matters under this. Executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions and preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Interim superintendent. And the second one, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. As chair, I so declare. At this time, I need a motion to go into executive session. Is there a motion?
Motion to go into executive session.
It's a motion by Ms. Azek. Is there a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Rodriguez has seconded. Now I need to read the roll, and I'll just go in this specific order. Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Vega?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
I'm going to go to Mr. Gomes.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Azek?
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. We will not be coming back into open session. We will be going to executive session. We'll be going down into the mayor's office, so the stairs on the left.
Right below
Go
us.
down them, and the door will be open right there. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Drive careful.
Thank you.